Hello everyone, welcome to free practice 2, or just practice 2 as I should really call it, for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix weekend. And we had a few red flags in the first practice session. If you joined us then, you would have seen what happened. But now we're back and we're ready to go, and we have got a hard tyre runner right now, as Hamilton is going to be the first one to possibly not set a lap but get some proper runs in. We didn't really see anybody go for a set of hards. In the end, Esteban Ocon was meant to do a hard tyre run, but ended up having issues before he could even set a lap. Hopefully Alpine's problems, their reliability issues, can fix themselves and not continue, because that would be absolutely disastrous. They've had a difficult year already, but they did get some performance out the car in the recent races, so they are kind of finding a bit of a rhythm, but still, it's a difficult time, and they've got to really make sure that they maximise everything. We've got a couple cars who are now starting laps for Verstappen. We've got Piastri going purple, and then the two Saubers. We've got Behrman, Tsunoda, Ricciardo, some other cars that also are on their way. Behrman doing a brilliant job so far. An absolutely incredible job. Ahead of their teammate in FP1. A difficult circuit. Sure, Nico Hülkenberg had a few years out of Formula 1 and didn't actually get to drive the Baku circuit, but Behrman is going to be a lot less experienced in general. Still managed to outpace him. It's only FP1 and it was only by one position, but it's still something to look forward to. It's still something to look at and see, is this the right driver for the Haas team? And right now, I think it is. Both Saubers cross the line. Tsunoda's going to try and beat their lap times. They do so. Then we have Behrman, who goes top of the times by 0.6, and then we will have Piastri, who is likely to beat that by quite some margin. 1.1 seconds on the medium tyre, fresh medium tyres right now for these guys, and it is the only hard tyre runner right now for Hamilton. Everybody else is on a medium set and looking to put some more solid lap times in and hope that there's no red flag. You've got a lot of people out on track, only a few that aren't out on track. They want to get those early laps in. You never know what's going to happen. The session could stop very suddenly and you would be in a big spot of bother for that situation. You don't want to get yourself in that position. Norris does not beat Behrman, and both Ferraris go faster than Piastri. It's too early to say. There's 54 minutes on the clock. We've got a long way to go in this session, but it is an interesting one to look at for sure. I'm trying to get excited over anything I can, with Alonso up to P4 as well. Stroll not able to do such a thing, and we've got Perez, despite going fastest in the first sector, has ended up P11. Hülkenberg take back everything I said about Hülkenberg over Behrman, and now manages to go and set a pretty decent lap to start off the session. Hamilton is on their way out once again, as they didn't set a lap on that hard tyre. They've gone in. We now see them back on a hard tyre, which is an interesting one. So we'll go out again, this time in a good track position. They say on the radio, so it's an interesting call indeed for that one. Who will be fastest? Well, right now it looks like it could be Ferrari, and sure, in Monza you're as good as your last race, so Ferrari are the best, but everyone's expecting McLaren to be really the top of the group. I think if McLaren can get things sorted, then they'll be good to go. With kind of team management side. However, I didn't realise how close Ferrari actually are to the constructors. The drivers is a little bit more difficult, but the constructors, I think Ferrari could definitely get this job done if other teams do slip up. That being said, McLaren, they don't have to do a massive amount more than they're already doing. They've obviously announced the big changes recently, so I think they're probably gonna make that work, and that'll be enough to secure them, at least the constructors, and push for the drivers. But yeah, who will be fastest? Probably McLaren, although interestingly going fastest right now. Again, I'll say, only 52 minutes on the clock right now. But Perez and Verstappen have just gone on top of the times, where Verstappen was incredibly quick. Even they were the fastest in FP1. So unless they're just pushing early on, whereas other cars aren't, Red Bull aren't looking as bad as I thought. And maybe, just maybe, if Verstappen's having similar problems that Perez has been reporting throughout the season around a circuit like this, which is literally Perez's territory, although Verstappen's still very good, winning here in 22, maybe they could be very close. That is what Perez needs right now, because they have really not performed. They performed, they didn't perform, and then they continue to just kind of be on a downward spiral. Now they might have an opportunity here to kind of bring that back, and also Singapore, which they've had a really good result at. I think they won in 22, is that right? I think they won in 22. So, you know, they've got 2 circuits back-to-back that they've had wins at. They should be able to perform quite well around here. Now, we've got Leclerc on that medium tyre, third. The next car behind both Red Bulls, being fairly vocal on the radio, as they were the one to have that crash. They've had another crash, it looks like. It's not a crash. They've just managed to bail out of a bit of a situation. I think there maybe was a yellow flag, so their teammate would have had to back off. But yeah, that's not what you want to see right there from Leclerc. He's had another issue at that same corner. Again, I'll say, it's an incredibly difficult, sorry, I'm just trying to figure out what's going on there. It's incredibly difficult at that corner. We saw Stroll crash a while ago, a couple of years ago. We see lots of drivers crash at that corner. But Charles Leclerc is really not happy with the car. Goes into the pit lane after making that mistake. And I think also Carlos Sainz wasn't exactly too happy either. Leclerc having more problems. Really not happy with the car's situation there. Saying it's impossible to drive the car. So that was a bit of a scare. They've fixed that car, but maybe not fixed it quite to what it should be, and that's why it's feeling weird. Or maybe they were just having problems before. I mean, it wouldn't explain it, because they were going very quickly at the time of that crash. So yeah, that's an interesting one to be involved in. We've got Yuki Tsunoda, Piastri, Hülkenberg splitting now the Ferraris as they get more laps in later on into the session. The track will speed up, it will heat up a little bit, which is always going to help the cars, of course. Tsunoda still 1 second away from Perez though. 4 tenths ahead of Verstappen is the Mexican driver as well. Verstappen's last lap was a personal best, and in every sector, whereas Perez not so much. As they try to push. Looking at the other times, we haven't seen anything be set by Gasly, Colapinto, or I'm trying to see who that one is. The very back of the pack. That would be Russell. So those cars yet to go out on the track. Of course, Leclerc already has gone out of track, but they are back in the pit lane. It's a bit of a risk. It is a bit of a risk not going out. You've got to be very careful with the red flags, of course. Verstappen not happy with the car at the moment, not happy with the balance of the car. Hamilton crosses the line to get a P2, fastest in that last sector only. And still almost 4 tenths away from Perez. So Perez quite liking the situation. That being said, hard tyre for Hamilton that he started this session with. So they are fairly fresh, 5-lap old tyres. And he's managed to set that lap, which is pretty decent. And again, people aren't going to be pushing at this stage of the session. But if you can start to set fast laps early on, then that will be absolutely perfect. You'll be good to go. Alrighty. Also, with obviously Leclerc having their issues, Colapinto had his issues in FP1, and it was a crash that was very, very unfortunate, easily done, just in the shadows, a bit of dust around the circuit as well, and the car just gets incredibly icy, very slippery, lost the rear end and hit the barrier. It wasn't a tyre barrier, it was more of a firmer barrier. It's a fairly slow speed part of the circuit, so you don't need that kind of protection around that corner. Colapinto is out on track right now, getting ready to set a lap at the pit lane. Gonna try and get rid of those mental barriers and get through the corner without having any issues. I'm sure they'll be able to do that quite well. They are a racing driver after all. They've done that their entire life. Now, will they be able to once again set faster lap than Albon despite crashing? They outpaced their teammate in that session only by a small amount, but they still managed to do it. Albon currently P14, 2 seconds away from Carlos Sainz, who's just improved 2.5 tenths over Perez. And that is also Alonso going up to 6th place, setting more improvement lap times right now. Still hard tyre for Hamilton, but 6 tenths away. Maybe that is the true pace of the Ferrari, or not true pace, but bled pace from the Ferrari. A bit more of a hint of what we'll be getting a little bit later on. Max Verstappen having a few problems locking up the car, they're saying. Just not happy with the balance, as we were saying earlier on. So these bumps on the circuit must be quite difficult to deal with, especially in that Red Bull. Although they're still fast, it's just a very difficult car to drive. A bit on a knife edge, I guess that would be. Alrighty. That is a yellow with Zhou. Are they backed out in a runoff, or are they stationary? It looks like they're in a runoff. So they get the car back the right way round and continue. The DRS was disabled for a moment, but got himself clear off the circuit and they're good to go. Turn 3 runoff area, which is going to be very well used, I have a feeling, in the race, especially in qualifying, where people will be pushing. The runoffs are crucial. The thing is, will you get a yellow flag in that corner and have to back off? Because if that's the case, qualifying is going to be crazy. You really have to, don't you? You can't really do anything about it, unfortunately. You just have to obey the yellow flags, and it does mean that a lot of people will probably have to back out on their qualifying laps, which is a shame, because you want to see people go as fast as possible, but safety first is very important, for sure. Now, Nico Hülkenberg not happy with Sergio Perez, as they were on different practice programs, it seems, and Perez looking to try and overtake and race Hülkenberg, whereas Hülkenberg trying to focus on their own session. So Hülkenberg goes into the pit lane, Perez stays out, got a free track ahead of them, and just setting more laps right now. 8 laps on their current tyre, and the most out of any car at the moment, matching the same amount of laps to most of the grid. Zhou's actually got the most laps out on circuit right now, 8 in 9 in this session, sorry. Closely followed by Sergio Perez, Lance Stroll, and that would be, I think, it with the most laps in the session. We still haven't had anything from Russell. Now, Russell, Hamilton, Mercedes, it's an interesting one. They were complaining again about the seat being very, very hot, so they must be having some sort of overheating issues, and they were very quick in qualifying. They've been a great qualifying car. Hamilton, I think, was hoping to qualify on the front row for the Italian Grand Prix, but the race pace just wasn't there in the end, and that would maybe show what is going on. They're overheating, and that is maybe why the race car hasn't been too good since, of course, Belgium, where Hamilton won that race, and they crossed the line 1-2 at least before Russell's disqualification for being underweight. Now, they've had problems like this in the past. I remember a long time ago specifically, and I don't know why I remember this one race, but Austria, I think it was 2019, maybe even 2018 as well. They were just having a lot of overheating issues, and they had to back off with their cars. So it's kind of come back again. It's a long time ago, so it's probably not the same issue. Hamilton's very quick at the moment on a hard tyre. They are in the pit lane, of course, but they set their very quick lap time. Right now, not many people out on track, as Perez has gone in. Tsunoda is out on his way back on circuit again, but lots of people now kind of in the pit lane, relaxing a little bit, and it does mean that there's a lot of clean air, which could be good. Of course, we've got Colapinto going for overtakes on Tsunoda. I think Colapinto's really trying to get more laps in right now. Obviously, they had a bit of a less amount of time compared to a lot of drivers from FP1, so now they're going to try and dial it down, get some experience around this circuit that they really, really don't know, and they're just going to have to keep going and going and going and going. I think we'll probably see Colapinto set quite a high number of laps in the session. That being said, they have only actually set 4 laps, it says on our timings right now. Zhou will not continue setting their runs. Of course, we've got Tsunoda being the first driver out on a set of softs, or to competitively set a lap time on this set of softs. So we'll see what they can get done. But right now, lots of people are just kind of relaxing. But we'll try and keep an eye on what Tsunoda does throughout the sector times, see if they can maybe go towards the front. After all, the cars ahead are on not old mediums, but fairly aged medium tyres, whereas a fresh set of softs should be pretty quick. 1.3 seconds they need to find on their previous time, but obviously not risk too much as well. So risk versus reward factor, that's what they've got to be looking at right now. Colapinto pushes themselves into P13 as they continue to set these laps, find a bit more confidence. They didn't improve in the final sector, but in the first 2 sectors they were good to go. Alrighty. Tsunoda looking good. They've got 2 cars in front. They shouldn't get any traffic. There is, after all, only 2 cars out on track ahead of them. We've got Bottas and Norris on their way out again already. Tsunoda should be good to get past Colapinto, who lets him go nicely. Gasly, would they even catch Gasly? If Gasly continues to push, they might not even bother. And if they do catch them, they might even get a bit of a tow. Whether you'll want that or not, I'm not sure. It's pretty hard to deal with a tow. It's pretty hard to get a tow. And if you can get experience, maybe it can kind of be good for qualifying and your understanding of when to position your car, etc. But I think, to be honest, yeah, he's way too far behind us to know that they're going to be focusing on setting their lap. They get through turn 15. Yep, they do, just about. That is the big horror. I think it's probably more of a difficult corner than the castle section, to be honest, as you're going downhill so much, whereas the castle section, you're just kind of absolutely send it. And with the accuracy that these drivers have, they can deal with it quite well. Sonoda, though, going up to the line now for the next time, as lots of people are out on circuit looking to do a similar thing to Sonoda. He sets the pace, and that's a P3, a 3/10 behind Carlos Sainz, who is now on their way out to try and set improvement lap from with the fresher tyre. Leclerc, his teammate, still in the pit lane with those issues. They're trying to fix them, and that's really difficult situation for him to be in right now. Less practice than anyone, crashing fairly early, to be honest, despite being incredibly quick. He's Charles Leclerc. He's going to be quick. He's one of the quickest qualifiers you can ever get. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes for the Monegasque driver. We will wait to see what some other cars can do. Bottas is going to start a lap on this soft tyre. Lots of other drivers will be doing so as well. I think Piastri will be coming across the line next as well. Albon, although going to start their lap very soon as well. Up to P6, doing a great job. 8/10 behind the current fastest time. So yeah, they've done a very good job there. What, 8/10 ahead of Colapinto. Well, a circuit that they don't have experience at. That's a pretty good going from Colapinto, but still Albon is doing very well, being up in the mix as well, kind of where they shouldn't be, as they were in, I think it was Monza. I don't think they were too far up there in Zandvoort, unless I'm completely forgetting what happened, but you know, they were up with the front pack where they kind of are aiming to be, but it's not a guarantee that they'll be in that position. We've got Norris going fastest, as they are in the first sector. And we've got maybe an issue. Looks like possibly Norris has had an issue with Gasly, potentially, as Gasly slowed down a little bit too early. And yep, Norris impeded slightly on their qualifying simulation. Don't know if a penalty can really be applied, but it does mean that their lap will be aborted. Carlos Sainz now going fastest in the first sector. Norris obviously won't improve. Bottas goes to P4. Norris still being fastest in that middle sector. Hamilton will go across the line. Can they go for a faster lap time? They will actually start their next lap time, so my apologies there for that confusion. We'll see Albon come across the line soon. Alonso is starting a lap. Albon is the next one to set a fresh lap, and they go to P4, which is a decent one, of course, putting themselves right up there. Behind Sonoda, though, by about a tenth almost. So yeah, they've got to be making sure that they keep close to those racing bulls. Earlier in the FP1 session, the racing bulls were incredibly quick. They seem to be the kind of more dominant force for the pack, but late on, Ricciardo was fairly far in front of Sonoda. Now it's a very different story. Sonoda seems to have a decent advantage compared to Ricciardo, but as they continue through the session, we've got Verstappen going just right behind Carlos Sainz. We've got Behrman going to P4. We've got Hulkenberg crossing the line. Where will they get according to their teammate? They don't improve. They actually go yellow in all sectors, despite being on a very fresh soft tyre right now. A few other cars coming across the line. Hamilton will be on his way. Gasly, what tyre are they on? Just to double check. They're actually still on their medium tyre run. So here we go with Hamilton. he is the next one to set an important lap. Then we will have Alonso. Norris, I think maybe are they going for a second run? No, they went pretty slow in that first sector, so I don't think they will be going for a run right now. Hamilton goes up to P3. That's a brilliant job from him. Alonso trying to get himself back into the top 10, and they do quite nicely. P7, where they've kind of been, P7 to 8, where they've been this session. This time they do have Behrman and Tsunoda ahead of them, instead of the kind of top 4 teams that we expect: Red Bull, McLaren, Mercedes. That's 3 teams. Ferrari, there you go, that's 4 teams. As Piastri goes and sets a very, very quick time on the board right now. Incredibly close to Carlos Sainz, only just ahead of Max Verstappen, almost half a tenth ahead of Max Verstappen. But they get their lap in finally, and they're good to go. But Norris is, of course, wanting to get some sort of quick lap time in, so we'll see if they can improve. But once again, well, I say once again, they're not improving a massive amount on this lap. They're not improving in the first sector at all, actually. But they are on slightly older tyres, as they've done a few cooldown laps effectively. Now, Gasly seems to be having problems as well, as Ocon earlier on in the session, of course. So that Alpine not only is down the order in pace, but is very unreliable this weekend, it seems. Max Verstappen complaining about the visibility, not happy with the sun on their visor. They're going to have to try and go on very dark on the visors to try and fix that problem, but kind of late afternoon in a very, very difficult circuit where the walls are very close. The blurred vision with the walls being so close, it will be incredible. Verstappen even mentioning that he's had visibility problems since the Silverstone crash with circuits that have like really close walls, and you know that's not going to help if you've also got sun in the way of your vision as well. Colapinto goes to P10 and only 100th away from their teammate right there. That is a brilliant lap there from Colapinto to get themselves up on that softer compound, doing what Williams want them to do right now. That's yeah, that is a brilliant job. Lots of people out on track at the moment. Norris, Leclerc, Tsunoda and Alonso currently in the pit lane. Bottas as well. On his way out the pit lane is Ricciardo. I am interested to see that Gasly is already out, back out on circuit, despite having any issues that they were complaining about with the battery, but they've managed to, I guess, get that fixed and they're good to go. George Russell still at the back right now. This is the 3rd lap of the session. They're on a hard tyre, 2-lap old hard tyre. It's their fresh set of tyres. But if they'd had any issues, I guess they've tried to come up with a fix, and now they'll see if their efforts have worked out nicely, or maybe they were just doing setup changes. We don't quite know. But yeah, this is going to be an attempt from Russell. That being said, he is on a hard tyre, and even though he should be in a fairly quick car, as I said, top 4 car, a hard tyre still is going to be difficult to run around this circuit and be quick, compared to almost everyone else being on that soft tyre, except from Leclerc, I think, has only been on that medium. Russell crosses the line. I do apologise for that, and I'll be back in a second, but Russell crosses the line and will stay at the back. right, we're good. We're good. Welcome, Walker, to the live stream. Good to see you. And it's not been the most popular FP3. Usually, sorry, FP2. FP2 is usually a fair bit more popular than the first practice session. I'm sure we'll get a little bit more attention later on in the session when everything gets a bit more important, but definitely tomorrow will be good. We've got Leclerc already having issues. They've come out on out of the pit lane since we took a short break and had more issues. They back out before going into the wall at that corner, of course. They're going very slowly. Hamilton's coming around a few corners. He's been warned and he is able to slow down in advance, but that was a very, very slow moving Ferrari, which isn't exactly ideal. But yeah, still having issues is Leclerc. Really not comfortable compared to what they were looking like they were feeling in the first session, which was awesome. Like, I mean, I'm going to be honest, I was basically thinking they're probably going to get pole position, but now I don't know. I don't know if that's the case. Actually gone off circuit twice on this outlap. Oh no, that's Carlos Sainz, sorry, who also went off to the runoff. I think that was much earlier in the session. If I'm correct in saying, unless I did miss it when I was momentarily away. But we're all back and good to go once again now, with Perez still being the pace setter right now, with Sainz right there, Piastri, Verstappen and Stroll in P5. Stroll putting in a good time recently. That is a good job on the fresh tyre, of course, a little bit later on into the session, but maybe getting a hold of the car at the moment, having struggles earlier on in this session and in the first practice session. If they can try and get that under control, which it looks like they are doing so, then they should be good. Lots of drivers just staying out on this soft tyre, or potentially going out on their original soft tyre. I say that. A lot of cars in the pit lane actually on their soft tyre, and they'll probably come out maybe on a different tyre to get some testing. As I said, we've got few drivers done some hard tyre running, but most drivers have really been on the medium tyres and soft tyres, so the hard tyres kind of haven't really been looked into as much. From my memory, correct me if I am wrong, however, of course. Franco Colapinto seems to be having an issue. We'll see if we can find out what that was. Ocon also continuing to have issues. Franco Colapinto in the castle section just absolutely ragging it, actually smashing the wall of their right rear. Could be in trouble, so I understand why they've gone into the pit lane. That was a hell of a whack right there. The rear suspension, maybe even the gearbox, could be affected by such a situation. But they might be lucky. But as I said, Ocon still having problems. Just Alpine having problems this afternoon. Zhou manages to set a lap time to split the two Alpines right now. So, yeah, not looking good for the French team right now. But they've got time to try and fix these problems. As I said, they've had a very tough start to the season, but they've had kind of light at the end of the tunnel here and there to try and get pace out of the car. It's just whether they can consistently get that without these reliability problems that they seem to be having. And considering going to Mercedes engine to try and fix those issues, and performance, of course, overall, it's an interesting one. Since Stroll, of course, has set a pretty decent lap recently, my kind of statement, my talking point that I was looking to go through with Stroll and Alonso's kind of gone out the window. I was going to say that Alonso's really enjoying the kind of weekend so far, compared to Stroll. Regarding lap time wise, at least, we haven't heard too much from Alonso. We've heard Stroll be quite vocal earlier on in the day, but now it's kind of switched a little bit. So maybe the Aston has kind of like done quite a decent job. They're definitely gonna have to get their heads down and push to see what they can do before they wait for Adrian Newey to come to the circuit. And I think a few people were saying that they're surprised that Adrian Newey joined Aston over Ferrari, but realistically, you know, you've got Fernando Alonso, but you've also got brand new facilities which take a lot of time to get underway, get built, get running properly. And they have just gone through that new phase of building basically an entire new factory. So Adrian Newey is going to come into a factory which is brand new, and he's got everything that you could ever want. Also, he's got links with Aston Martin previously, so really, if you think about it, it's kind of everything aligned a lot better, and then they gave him a better deal. I assume, of course, with kind of monetary value and contract value in the end. Alright, looking at the current cars out on track, still got a few people in the pit lane, mostly the top runners right now of the session. We've got both Haas's on their way out on a old set of medium tyres, looking to do very similar kind of practice programs maybe. They look to be running kind of in tandem, whereas the two Mercedes, they're very different. Maybe that's on purpose. Russell trying to go in a different direction to Hamilton because Russell is staying with the team, whereas Hamilton's not. If you say that, though, that's very kind of similar for Behrman and Hülkenberg, whereas Hülkenberg is going away. But in all fairness, they need to just try and compare Hülkenberg to Behrman and see what they can do to try and help Behrman improve over a more experienced driver. So that's maybe why they're just running both cars in very similar situations. Although that being said, Behrman has got one extra lap on their current tyre right now. Leclerc goes and improves to P7. He improves to P7. I get it out eventually. As he tries to get comfortable with this car. Still 7 tenths away from Perez. But they are only three tenths away from their teammate, so considering they've had their issues, it's better than nothing, of course. And they are on a medium tyre, the original medium tyre that they were on at the start of this session, so they should be good in that regard. Yeah, to see Russell set a lap time that has taken them away from the bottom spot on the timing board. He's getting a bit of a distant tow from Ricciardo as they set their next lap on this hard tyre. Improving in that final sector, but still not improving actually position-wise. And just staying back where they are. Getting a decent amount of laps on this hard tyre now. Only 17 minutes left in the session though. So if they wanted to really try and go for a good lap late on, then it'll be a bit difficult, but they can still get the job done. Maybe they're just waiting to do that tomorrow when it matters a little bit more. That could be possible. They're just being a bit more calculated and looking at the race setup today compared to a qualifying run, which will be on Saturday, which will be tomorrow, along with the practice 3 session. Norris seems to be quite far back on the practice order right now. down in P16 on that medium tyre, however. On an old medium tyre as well. And of course kind of slightly impeded on their qualifying simulation run, it seemed. And they were looking to go fastest at that point, possibly even faster than their teammate. Maybe faster than Perez, but I'm not sure if they would have actually been faster than Perez. They were definitely pretty quick though. It's been a while since we've said that Perez has been fastest, but seems to be really enjoying this circuit today, as they have in the past, of course, quite often. Anyway, we continue. Lots of cars out on the circuit. Once again, Verstappen rejoins. Or they've been out for a few laps now, but just to see them back out on the circuit and see what they can do. They are on an old set of medium tyres. Lots of cars all going down the start-finish straight, very close together right now. It's all getting a bit difficult. Norris getting a massive tow from Hulkenberg as he goes fastest in that last sector, understandably, but still not able to improve position-wise. So many people just going down that straight right there. You could see they're all very close together. I think Norris is overtaking Hulkenberg, and Hulkenberg is just kind of letting that happen on their kind of, I guess, race simulation. A bit of dirty air could be good for the information as well, to see how the car reacts. Are we seeing anybody on fresh tyres? Yes, we are. We're seeing Leclerc on a set of fresh tyres and looking to go for a fast lap if they can, which would be very interesting as they go purple. Colapinto maybe having a bit of an issue with their wheel. But anyway, we carry on. Leclerc going very quickly. This is something to watch. Of course, they've had their issues earlier on in the session. Now they seem to be getting everything up to scratch. The qualifying king. Absolutely mental when it comes to straight line speed. They come through turn 15 and they manage to get through cleanly, but they are fairly far away from the wall. I mean, considering driving the car, like if it was people like me and you trying to drive the car, then it would be very, very close to the wall. But Leclerc right there, for his standards, that was quite far away. They're keeping it probably quite under the limit for that corner. But they're going to go up to the line now. Will they be able to beat Perez, beat their teammate? It could be possible, and they will take a very, very nice top time. I say that by an incredibly small amount, 0.006 of a second right there ahead of Perez, setting a great first sector. The second and third sector were only PBs. They weren't fastest overall. So, doing a good job, but could be a little bit more. This late on in the session and on fresh soft tyres, they finally get what they need together to set in a fast lap, but is it fast enough? Maybe they're happy with that lap time. Of course, we'll see tomorrow a little bit of a better view of what would be happening with that. 12 minutes left on the clock right now, about to hit the 11-minute kind of numbers. And we'll see lots of drivers out on track to get these final runs in. We haven't had any red flags. We've had a few yellows here and there of people making a few mistakes, but no crashes in FP2. Everybody being a little bit more careful. They're kind of used to the circuit a little bit more, and they should be good to go, I guess. But I'm going to jinx that, because now we get to these final stages, all the tyres are a little bit older. They're getting a bit more worn. There is a yellow flag as we speak. That is a issue for Carlos Sainz, but also for Hulkenberg maybe, who goes very slowly on turn 15. Carlos Sainz at turn 7, so that must be runoff for both of those cars. So literally as I was speaking about it, we get those issues. But still no red flag. If we do get a red flag at this stage of the session, we would probably see an early end to practice, unfortunately. But it's definitely difficult. And that was definitely a bit of an issue for Carlos Sainz. Also, Lando Norris going off the circuit may get that lap time deleted, but I don't think they set an improvement, so it doesn't really make too much of a difference. And yeah, Hulkenberg taking the runoff at turn 15 rather than taking it to the barrier. So yeah, they've done the right call right there, as he actually, the Dutch Grand Prix, took it to the barrier a little bit too many times in one afternoon or one weekend. So they're trying to get that kind of situation fixed, and they should be good to go. They've been pretty quick ever since, doing a very good job. Straight line speed in Monza was great in the first sector, as I said before. And right now, although only a margin ahead of their teammate, they are P8, which is brilliant for Haas at the moment. Running at the kind of front end of the midfield. Stroll has done a great job to be where they are right now, but it's, yeah, an interesting one. Almost 4 tenths ahead of both Haases. They're really kind of picking things up, having issues earlier on. We haven't heard anything from them since. And they seem to have fixed any issues that they had before. So, doing a great job right there. Is Aston Martin and Lance Stroll. Alright. Closing stages of the session are coming up. We'll start to see a few people push a little bit. Although that being said, they might try to just get these laps in, because with 8 minutes on the clock, people not really coming out, except from, that is Norris, Russell, who is now on a soft tyre, and Leclerc, of course, still being on that soft tyre. We might not see too much pushing right now. Norris going to try and get a scrub tyre on that soft tyre and see if they can finally get that qualifying simulation run that they wanted to try and get earlier before getting kind of blocked by Gasly. I say blocked because it wasn't really impeded. You can't really get that, unfortunately, in this situation. I say unfortunately, luckily in this situation for Gasly. But we have, of course, George Russell, who is looking to set some quick laps on this soft tyre if they can, from previously being on the hard tyre. Will they be able to get up to scratch with this soft tyre from being on a much less grippier tyre? They are a Formula 1 driver. They should be able to do so. They're going to go across the line, and they are going to set a P9 at the moment. P9, is that really where they want to be? I mean, if they can build it up, they've got plenty of time to go again. Of course, go for a cool down now and then have another go. It seems to be like a lot of people have done that. That is a Lance Stroll stationary at turn 2. Interestingly, we weren't able to see that, but Lance Stroll is moving once again. So more or less it was just kind of a bit of a moment, I guess, on the exit, and I don't think there would have been any contact. That is a yellow for Bottas in the first corner. And a few cars are going to have to be lifting for that one. Bottas has just gone deep into the corner and trying to rejoin the circuit. Russell complaining about some understeer in their car, so that's an interesting one. You'd expect them to kind of be getting used to the soft tyre grip from being on that hard tyre the entire session, but actually they've already found the limit and now they're just struggling with understeer. So, yep, They are very good at driving a car and knowing where the understeer is. And now they're going to try and see if they can fix any issues. I think they're trying to maybe change something on the car. I don't know if that means they'll come into the pit lane or not, or if it'll be a software fix that they'll be doing. There's a bit of instability on the rear, it looked like, potentially, that caused Bottas to go in. Maybe a bit of understeer as well on the front left, and the rear kind of swung a little bit, I guess, and just going deep into the corner was Lance Stroll. Doesn't go too far down the runoff, but it was just kind of very stationary, and then just had to try and be very cautious and not crash into any of the cars. As they rejoin the circuit, 5 minutes left on the clock now. And Russell stayed out, so it must have been something on a software situation that they changed. So they may be going again for another lap right now. Would they get traffic? I mean, there are some cars up ahead that are very close together. We've got Lando Norris, who hasn't set a very respectable first sector, but I thought they were going to try and get some soft tire runnings in right now. They have got Hulkenberg right in front of them, which does mean that they are going to have to abide by what Hulkenberg does. But we will see Russell go into the pit lane after all, to see if they can get some minor changes, I assume, before the end of the session, so they can go out again one more time. Hamilton, I should say, stays out though on this hard tyre. So what those runs from Hamilton, of course, he was doing earlier, has basically gone to George, and now George is Hamilton's doing what George was doing earlier on, so they've switched it just a little bit later on. Now, it was a quick pit stop from Russell, no tyre change, just a wing flap. As I thought they mentioned, it wasn't going to be a software. That's why I was a bit unsure whether they would come into the pit lane or not. I expected them to, but didn't want to make any assumptions just yet. Now, he's going to be looking to try and go even faster. Currently 1 second away from Leclerc's fastest time, which is a 1:43.484. The top 5 that only wants to be in the 43s. Russell, a 44.536. They've got a bit of a margin to try and get further up. They have been beaten by Hulkenberg and Stroll on lap time right now. Lando Norris has stayed behind Hulkenberg the entire lap this time around, trying to maybe get some dirtier running to try and figure out what's going to be the race situation later on. Or are they going to be able to go a bit faster? I don't think so. 40-second first sector is definitely not going to be fast lap territory at all. So I think they've just kind of decided, you know what, this is how it's going to be. I'm just going to try and sit behind the car ahead and get some good data for the race scenario, which is better, you know. It's probably going to be much better. They'll look at maybe another qualifying run tomorrow on the day of qualifying, of course, in FP3. So that would probably be much more useful, to be honest. And we'll see how it goes. We'll be back again, of course, 9:30 BST, that's 10:30 CEST, for practice 3, and of course qualifying at 1 PM BST, that is 2 PM CEST. It's going to be a bit of an earlier one for the practice session. George Russell having more problems, so wanting to go out again. See if they can improve, but more issues. So they were kind of, not running, and then they went on the hard tyre just to see what was going on, but now they're back into the pit lane. And that car continues to have issues, retiring from the British Grand Prix, of course, and having overheating issues in Monza, and having a mention of a kind of a hot seat again, as we heard a few times earlier on in FP1. I can't remember whether that was from Lewis or George. Maybe a hot seat is a code word for something. but I assume a hot seat is a hot seat, and that could be something that they're struggling with. So yeah, it's an interesting one, and you really don't want a hot cockpit in a race, especially at a circuit like Baku, where you really want to be nice and cool and be able to focus on what's going on, of course. Right now, it looks like the times are going to be the times, and I don't think we'll be getting any improvements. Albon is going out again on a scrub set of soft tyre to try and see if they can improve for the final moments in the session, which is going to be a difficult task, but they could definitely give it a shot, of course. They were running fairly high earlier on, but haven't set a competitive lap time since. I say competitive lap time, I mean more of a qualifying run lap time, so they're going for a final situation, final attempt as the session is closing out and they can go full beans. If they do crash the car, of course, the mechanics will have the night to repair it, but you really don't want to do that. Impeding from Sainz and Perez, so I don't know who was the one who was impeding, but it seems like they've had a bit of a situation. I think it's Carlos Sainz that maybe was impeding Sergio Perez at turn 15, it looks like. Just before turn 15, so turn 14-ish, 13. That's where it was, and not happy with Carlos Sainz's car positioning, as that is a yellow flag. But I'm not entirely sure where the yellow flag will be. It's the first corner. I think it will be Lance Stroll who's dropping back and letting a few cars go through. But Albon, of course, is trying to get these laps in, but they didn't actually make the line, so that will be their session done. Sergio Perez is going to cross the line, but obviously having that impeding moment, we'll just have to kind of leave it at that. We'll get a few cars, of course, being able to do some practice starts, but the session is complete. Leclerc will top the times. No one else is going to improve. It's going to be Perez in P2, then Hamilton, Carlos Sainz, Piastri, Verstappen, Lance Stroll in P7. You've got Hulkenberg, then Russell having issues in P9, and Behrman finishing up off the top 10, which is a brilliant job from Oliver Behrman this afternoon. A very, very solid practice session. They're going to be very happy with that one, I think. Charles Leclerc, despite having issues throughout the afternoon, was able to get things together after their damaged car from the first practice session. Everything should be working quite nicely and they're looking pretty rapid. Still, it's hard to say who's going to be quickest, because we've got all cars up there, although Norris wasn't able to set a competitive lap time after being blocked. Piastri still was able to set a decent lap time, but 4 tenths away from the pole sitter right there. So McLaren, although everybody still, and I would still put it on them, back them for a good result, aren't up front. And it's going to be Ferrari who are looking up front. Could Ferrari possibly win the Constructors' Championship? It could be possible. It could be very possible. That's going to be that, though. Stroll crosses the line. Russell is in the pit lane, so they are already done with the session. That's everybody finished right now, and they'll get some practice starts going for the rest of the session, I believe. But other than that, I can say thank you very much. We'll see you at 9:30 tomorrow. We'll see you at 10:30 if you're in Europe, 9:30 if you're in the UK. Have a good one. It's been a pleasure. We'll see you for practice 3 and qualifying on Saturday the 14th. Have a good one. Again, bye-bye.